Hello, I'm Craig Constantine. Are you passionate about creating amazing podcasts? Terrific. You are in the right place. Welcome to Pod Talk, short conversations with podcast creators that are not just about podcasting, because I like to take the scenic route. My guest today is Jeff Revilla. Welcome, Jeff. How are you this afternoon?
Oh, doing well. Thank you so much. Just weathering some vicious Pennsylvania storms.
Yeah, thanks for sending them my way. I've been hitting this collection of people who are in Pennsylvania. So normally we don't talk about weather or times. Sometimes I nerd out about time zones, but I've actually been to where you are, which is out near Pittsburgh. We're going to talk a little bit about Jeff. Crazy has a physical in real life theater. Or we're going to talk about live in-person podcasting, which I thought was super interesting when I saw what you had done. So it's called Poduty, Poduty.com, Poduty Live. And the first thing that I want to know is, okay, if you take a podcaster, now I'm pretty charismatic and I was the class clown, but if you take a random, regular, independent podcaster and you stick them on a stage with a light and a live anything, do they like freak out, or does the average podcaster enjoy the challenge, or how does that work? Like from the managing that point of view when you get these people in a live space?
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm in my home studio. I'm not even at the theater. You're in your home studio. This is simple. This is safe. I know I can come home after work. I have a 7:00 interview scheduled, fire up the computer, fire up my microphone. I'm in a controlled environment
Right.
that I'm used to, right? I'm used to going on interviews. I'm used to recording my podcast in this type of environment. And like most podcasters, you take us out of this environment and you don't feel as safe. You don't feel as in control. You're letting your show being produced by somebody else. You're letting the lights and the
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
and the clips. You're giving up a lot of control. But in exchange for that, you get an experience that you just don't get in a home studio,
Hmm.
that you don't get when you upload an MP3 file and wait 7 days to see what your download numbers are.
Nobody loves me.
Yeah, you can know in real time that nobody
Nobody
loves
loves
you.
you. Oh, here we go. Stand up comedy. What was
Womp
that?
womp.
Yeah,
But
that. Go ahead.
you're right. Like it is a different environment. And part of my learning curve this first year that we've been in business is there are a lot of podcasters around the world for sure. There's a smaller amount in Pittsburgh that compared to the world total. And of those, only some of them are ready to take that leap and do a live performance, get in front of people. So, I'm trying to like not only train people that this is a new form of entertainment. You can go out at night. You don't have to go to a comedy club to see a comedian or a bar to listen to a musician. Now you can go to a place to listen to a podcast get recorded, and maybe it's on a topic you really enjoy or something you studied in college, and
Hmm.
you can follow along in real time and get this new type of experience. So I'm training the public, hey, let's come out, do something. It's $10. You're not going to break the bank, but I'm also trying to attack this from the podcaster side of, hey, if you can get out of your studio, if you can trust me for an hour, 90 minutes of your night to record one of your episodes, not only are you going to have a whole new experience, a new perspective on what a podcast can be, you're probably going to walk out the door with a couple bucks in your pocket, probably cover your expenses for a couple of months, and you're going to have fun. Like you're going to be in front of people again. You're going to see faces and smiling faces and shake people's hands. And it's just a completely different perspective and a different twist on what you could think a podcast can be. But you got to take that leap. Like that's, most people aren't quite ready to do that.
I think you point. So I'm hearing a bunch of things in there, and one of them is when we talk, we indie podcasters, when we talk to people about podcasting, most of the time we're talking to regular people who most people these days have at least they know what it is if they aren't actually a regular listener. So if I'm talking to someone and they say, like, I'm sitting at somebody's picnic and they're like, what do you do? I'm always like, do I even want to say I'm a podcaster? Because it makes me sound like this pretentious. Okay, I'm pretentious. It makes me sound like this nerd who does what you were saying. I want to live in my safe, controlled environment. So the first thing I'm hearing you saying is like, Craig, get out of your comfort zone, which is like exactly, yes, I should totally do that. The other thing that I'm hearing is when you bring in the public, this is theater. Like this is the most generalized theater idea. Come, Jeff saying, come to this theater space. What's the show? Well, the show is people making that thing that you already like. And maybe they've never heard of, like maybe I go there and I do a Movers Mindset episode. which is like totally a thing because I can think of guests that I know who are in Pittsburgh. Like, I'm like, oh, meet me over here in Tarentum and then we can do the show. We had a little discussion up front about the name of the town is Tarentum. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to say that, but you had a great joke. So I remember the name. What's the hardest part for you? Did you have a huge personal learning curve? Like, because stage manager is a real thing. When you have physical space, I know that stage manager is a real thing. Was that like the challenge, or was it financially putting the space together, or getting the theater to let you have, like, what was the biggest hurdle?
Well, I grew up in the 80s, in the 90s. I grew up in skateboarding culture. I grew up in punk rock culture. I grew up
Mm.
DIY. Like for me, I bootstrapped this whole theater. It's fun. If you ever come in, I will pick through everything in this theater that I made it so I could fill it up. And I will show you the orange chairs behind me I bought for $2. And
Mm.
the stage I bought off an old karate school for $1,000. And I got truss and pipe and drape off Amazon auctions. And I really believe that you don't need the huge investment. So that wasn't a learning curve. That was the fun part for me was, trying to find everything, acquiring all the assets to fill up a space. Like a 2,000 square foot space, it's pretty packed. I have stuff everywhere. It's even built in a way that the lobby area seating can become interview seating on the stage, and the stage seating can go off to
Mm.
the back. So everything is designed to move around
Multi-purpose.
and be a part of something else. So that was like that learning curve was fun. I really, really enjoyed putting this together and that mentality of, how do you do a show? How do you get it? And a lot of times I go back to like Bon Jovi quotes. You're close to New Jersey. I'll come out with a Bon Jovi quote. And, his saying, I heard him say one time his most famous songs were where he got to the chorus. And he would always say, don't bore us, get to the
Of
chorus. Like
course.
that's
Yep.
the Bon Jovi school of thought for production. And when I bring somebody into the stage and I'm getting them ready and I'm showing them, the difference between being on stage and what they do in their podcast, I tell them that, like, don't bore us, get to the chorus, get to the upfront parts. If you make mistakes, there's no edit button. There's no pause this time,
Right.
but we got to keep the show moving no matter what. And I promise you, you're going to make mistakes tonight. And you're the only person in this room who's going to actually know that you made a mistake. The audience just thinks it's part of the show. If you keep rolling with it, if you keep going, nobody knows. They just think, wow, what a great show. They planned all that out and it
How
worked out perfectly.
dynamic, right?
You're the only one. And the only time the audience will know is if you throw the microphone across the room and
Rage quit.
flip a chair. Like now they know something's going wrong. But getting out of this environment that you and I are in right now, that safe space, and taking that to the stage, understanding that a live environment is so much more forgiving than a studio recorded podcast.
Yeah.
Even think of a music album. If it's recorded in a studio, you take that home or you download it now or listen to stream it. You don't just buy a CD. Yeah, it's showing my age. You expect a certain level of quality from a studio recorded album than you do from a live recorded album. There's a difference. Even knowing how much music you've listened to in your life,
Yeah.
you know the difference between studio and live. And you give that variance because you're experiencing something different. And when you do your podcast live, the audience is also they also know that this is a live environment. Things are going to happen. Spontaneous things are going to happen. Things that aren't planned. People could, run across the stage for some reason, or, the door opens and it distracts you for some reason. You're in a movie theater and the back door opens up and that
light
beam of light shines down, right? It distracts you, but that's part of the movie. And that's part of the experience of being around people and experiencing something new is you get to do this new thing with new people and really enjoy it and, get into the nitty gritty with what is a live performance.
One of the ideas, like when I first saw this and went to the website and looking like, ooh, and I'm kind of making a joke, but like, I kind of feel like I've heard some indie podcasters complain that we don't get a lot of feedback from our audience, and of course it's because there is no audience. It's just, it's the broadcast medium. Yes, people can email you and we all beg for, please go give me a rating, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, Craig, what you could do would be go do your podcast in a space where there's, like 4 people actually sitting, present, and they're probably not going to throw tomatoes and maybe have a tomato detector when they come in. They're like, no tomatoes allowed in the theater. But once they're in, who knows what they could throw at me. But I'm just wondering about experiences, if you could share any experiences that you've had where the podcasters did something, maybe something that maybe afterwards they'd have to tell you this so you would know, but they did something that they normally would do, but the experience for them was very different because the audience went, or, oh, like, have you seen podcasters get lit up, like in the good way, not lit on fire, get lit up by that feedback happening in real time?
The funny, I talk about spontaneous and talk about being in the moment. And if you stick to those rules in a podcast environment, it is fine. I've seen people prepare monologues. I've seen people prepare like stand-up comedy routines that they haven't even tried. They just thought, I'm going to write some funny jokes.
Oh, that's going to work great.
And time again, those things bomb. They fail because you're not in that moment. If you can have like a bulleted list of things you want to talk about, or a structure to this show, and structure is totally fine. You can have clips lined up, ready to play. You can have things, in that environment, but you have to kind of meander through the bullet points and be in the moment and understand your material and know your material and just talk from the heart like we're doing tonight. There's no script for this show. There's no real bullet points. We're
Right.
kind of just flowing a conversation, but we're doing that with the expectation of delivering some sort of value to the audience that's listening to this. We want them to, go out, experience a live podcast, whether it's in Pittsburgh or Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon. Go out and, try something new. And I lost my train of thought. And I forget where I was at now. It was a really
I was
good
asking
point.
you about experiences for the podcast host.
Oh yeah. So the more that you plan and don't really embrace the live environment, the more you will struggle with an audience who is in the moment, who is there for the performance. So
yeah, they have no idea what you were planning. How would they have any clue? Like, I don't know, I'm showing up for a thing.
Yeah. So I say, have it. You can have a plan in a kind of a bullet point script, but don't script it out word for word. It gets ugly fast.
It's like 101 podcasting. Don't script it out. Don't read the thing. I'm also wondering about, like, I'm imagining a person who does a host on mic show. Yeah, I could see how they could want to turn it into a little bit more of a monologue because it's really close to being monologues. My favorite place to play is in one-on-one personal conversations. And I'm suddenly wondering, I'm trying to figure out what guests I could imagine, because I get a lot of people who are willing to come on podcasts. Like, this is not your first rodeo, but I have a lot of guests on Pod Talk and on Movers Mindset, and even on Open and Curious, who have never done a podcast before. And it takes a little bit of like, don't panic. There's no, for me, don't panic. There's no video, and we're going to do a thing. And if you don't love it, I hit the veto button, and there's a lot of safety net I can set up. And I'm just trying to imagine, it might take a special guest or like a person who's also willing to take that leap. But then again, maybe if I said, I'm going to take a leap, could you please come with me and hold my hand while I take a leap? And then my vulnerability might invite the guest to come along. I don't know if you have any thoughts about how the guests have been reacting to that.
Yeah, a lot of times these are usually positioned as one of two things. One, it's a special event, maybe quarterly, that you're doing for your local fans. So the people who are going to be in that event are most likely friends and family, most likely people you've known through podcasting locally. So it's a very comfortable environment. It's not a ton of other people at this point. This is still very new. We're only coming up on a year this June. So a lot of the events are your very closest friends and family. So you are in a very comfortable environment. It's only a 40-seat theater, so you're not going to get overwhelmed by people coming in front of you. There's going to be just like a little bit of change between this is what we normally do and this is how we're doing it tonight, and that's it. The first 5 minutes, once you get past that, the nerves get shaken off. You're having a good time. You're with friends and family, people who know you, people you're comfortable with anyway, and you just have a good time. It's that's kind of the environment we're going to build. This party, like this festival, this celebration of podcasting. We want it to, this is the kind of, I don't want to say it's the birthplace of this type of entertainment, but we're building something new and something different here. And people, if we do, one thing you say, things that are funny, like you might go to like your Christmas holiday. You said you tell people at a party, like, I don't know if I want to tell them I'm a podcaster, but chances are you've told people and you've told your family and your friends, like, yeah, hey, I have a podcast. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. Maybe I'll download it and maybe I'll subscribe. And you don't really get like this real buy-in from friends and family. They're supportive, like, okay, that's cool. Like they're not going to put you down and not going to chastise you for doing it, but they're also probably not going to actively listen or participate in it.
Right.
But when you come home and you say, hey, June 1st, we're going to be live on the main stage at the Paduti Podcast Theater. All of a sudden, this thing you've been working on, this idea you have, has become a tangible thing that people understand all of a sudden. And it adds so much credibility to what you're doing. So when you say, we're going to be now live on the main stage, people are like, wait, that thing you told me about at Thanksgiving? Now you're doing a performance on a
real
stage?
life.
It's okay. Now it's a thing. And when we say like most time the friends and family come, a lot of times that's the first time they've even heard the show. Like, a lot of times they're there to support them because now it's a real thing that other people are seeing and other people can participate in and really be supportive, not just hitting a subscribe button or download or visiting check out my website. They're actually there in person supporting you. And now it's a new thing to them too. It's something that's become real. It's not just an MP3 file.
Most people listening, hi mom. My mom doesn't listen. Most people listening, I think, would know that my personal mission is about creating better conversation to spread understanding and compassion. And podcasting is just one of the things I do in service of that. However, I'm standing here thinking, this sounds to me like I totally should go do this because I love having great conversations with people. So I'm having a blast. Jeff, this is great. Thank you so much. And I know that people listening get something from the conversation, what I always call the experiential takeaway. And maybe, I don't know, in this case, maybe get out of your comfort zone is the takeaway here for podcasters today. Maybe they get a concrete takeaway. But I'm really feeling like, if we were in a theater and there were like 3 other people there watching this who had a chance to like actually experience fly on the wall style, see it in the spotlight, they might get a lot more from the experience of watching people engage and have that conversation. So I don't know if I could pitch it up at the end if it needed to be a question, but that's what I'm thinking about, how that could change the way I do what I'm doing.
And I purposely built this. And you mentioned that feeling of like when you listen to a podcast on your morning commute or while you're on a walk or, just around the house cleaning stuff, you have a podcast on. At some point you get the feeling that you're really in the room listening to that conversation. You're just sitting there and you're so immersed in the conversation. You just feel like you're there. And the way I designed this theater, you're never more than 3 rows from the stage and it's kind of wraps around it like a C shaped. And when I turn on all the lights in the house and only that stage, you can kind of see only you'll get to see this, but you can.
Well, there's a beautiful picture on the website. It's almost like a black box theater.
Yeah. And that's what I want. I want you, when you're sitting there, the only thing you can do is be drawn into that stage. So when you're sitting there in that moment, listening to them come up with whatever they're coming up with in their moment, you feel like, I really am in the room with these people. I really am experiencing it just like I've been visualizing it in my head all these years while I've been listening to their episodes. So it's very intentional in that design, that black box theater. It's actually, I heard Todd Glass like 10 years ago. He's a comedian, talked about the perfect theater, for doing comedy. He's like, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want a single light on in the house. I want to come out from behind a black curtain with one little single spotlight, just lighting up my torso and my head. And that's it. And then I'm like, that's kind of perfect for podcasting, that black box theater idea where that's all you see. And that's what I want to recreate, because that type of environment really recreates those earbuds that you listen to in your on your car in your morning commute. Yeah. You're getting that same feeling by being in that type of environment
without the traffic. Sorry.
Yeah, there's no beeping in my theater. Although there isn't trains. That we're about half a block from the train tracks, and every once in a while, the train just like rattles the whole building. And I really want to start like some sort of inside joke, like, or maybe because it doesn't even pick up on the microphones, but the audience knows, and the people on stage are like, "Oh my goodness, what's happening?"
Yeah.
And
Pay no
but I
attention
also
to the
like
man.
get everybody like in the audience train whistles, like those wooden ones that they give out at like baseball
Yeah.
games sometimes.
Yeah.
So that whenever a train comes by, everybody in the audience just starts blowing the train whistle for no reason. So people, because the 40-seat theater is designed to be live streamed, so there could be 1,000 people watching this little tiny baby theater, but everybody in the audience is blowing their train whistle.
Oh, and the people watching are like, "What the hell's going on? There's no
What
trains
the?
in our world." That's so weird.
And then they just throw toast at me or something like a Rocky
Oh,
Horror Picture.
Rocky Horror Picture Show reference. I have been to the Rocky Horror Picture Show many times. I'll out myself. I had what I thought was a great follow-up question, but it totally fell out of my head.
That's okay. I have that same problem. So we're tied 1-1 right now for who forgot. Yeah.
Oh,
It was about the
I know
trains.
what I actually found it. No, the train is the train topic derails me.
Oh,
because
I'm gonna give you an extra point for that one.
The town I live in has it's probably the same train tracks. Maybe the train tracks come from Harrisburg to the town next to where I am, and they roll by my house. And every once in a while, I can hear them, but nobody can hear them on the show. I digress. The thing that I thought of is I personally don't like the side-by-side talking heads video. I hate to say it's Zoom because it's not just Zoom, but just, the two people looking at, so I'm the listener and I'm looking at the host and the guest and they're both looking at Jeff's turning his head. Exactly. But when they're looking directly at me, it's a little weird. Like that's not how conversations normally work. Normally people talking to each other, they face each other. And I'm wondering if you've heard any feedback from people who've attended a recording, been in the theater, or even like I know the people watching it live are going to go, "Whoa, this is way more pro," because it's not a Zoom call with two side-by-side face-to-camera heads. I'm just wondering what your feeling has been from the audience when they experience this immersive audio thing that I'm thinking they loved so much. Now they see it in person, and it's the good kind of conversation where you're actually watching two people really facing and interacting.
Yeah, I used to joke like all I did was build a $10,000 Zoom room. Like
we got to do a show with a green piece of like foam core in the middle, and then the guest and the host will sit and face the audience, and then we'll just like not actually look at each other. I'm turning away from them, like sorry,
and we'll put one of them on like a 3-second delay.
Yeah, I'll just get really good at pausing in mid, like freezing still on this thing. Dude, this is getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that feedback from people who see it in person and how that's going to feel different than the Zoom call?
Yeah. It is. There's something that happens when you're in the environment. Like there's just something completely different that you don't even expect. Whether you've listened to the show before and you've watched their live stream, and now you see them right in front of you. Sometimes we've had the host and the guest. And sometimes people are more interested in the guests. They feel like they've been drawn in more to the guests, and they'll talk and ask questions and hang out afterwards. And they get just that whole different perspective and experience on how does this all happen? Like, how does this whole show come together? You get to see that. You get to see like how the sausage is made. And then you get to experience like the actual interaction right in front of you. There's no split screens. They're there. Like it's as real as anything you've ever. It is real. I mean, it's as real as anything you've ever seen. And you just I really say like I can tell you all about it. I can tell you having a guest on the stage and but when you first time you do it and you're there, like even in the second row, like you're seeing everything you've ever heard on that show happen right in front of you. Almost like the first time you went to a stadium arena to see Bon Jovi in 1988. Like that was amazing experience. The overstimulation of 20,000 people and whatever they were smoking, and they try to sneak that inside. And the nachos and the pretzels and the people yelling and the lighters going up, all those things that were part of that experience, you're going to get a much more like microscopic view of how a production works and see how everything comes together. It's just a whole, I leave the control room a lot and I go sit in the audience because I love watching it too. I love seeing it happen. And when you're there, you just want to keep taking it in and keep seeing more. And you kind of, I don't want it to end. I just love seeing it come to life and see that room, radiate energy and happiness and laughter, and just take that room to the next level, take podcasting to the next level, build this new experience for other people to enjoy.
Do you have any feel for how many other? I think, I watch a lot of stuff in prep, and I'm like, I feel like I heard you mention this somewhere, but I can't remember. Do you have any feel for how many other? I don't want to call this an experiment because, like, you shipped it. This is not a. I wonder if it works.
Beta,
Do
Padooty
you have
beta.
any? Yeah, no, definitely. This is definitely gamma. Do you have any feel for are other people trying same things in? Because there have to be thousands of opera houses and theaters and places that were in small towns of tens of thousands of people sized towns, where these buildings already exist, and basically not ready to go. Maybe it needs some upkeep, but do you have any feel for, is this like, are you ahead of the curve? I mean, I know you're ahead of the curve, but like, are you like the first one, or are you thinking did you guys have an email list for 20 of you who are like bitching about all the same problems with popcorn or whatever?
I, I don't know if I'm the first. There's certainly comedy clubs, and this is loosely based on a comedy club model. There's certainly, TV stations like Saturday Night Live. Really, this is just a DIY, whatever studio.
Yeah, Studio 13 or we should know that. We should know what studio Saturday Night Live is in.
It's really just a small TV studio, right? You can go up on stage. There's cameras all around. We can broadcast that out. It's the same thing. So there are some elements of other things being dedicated as a podcast theater. I haven't seen this model around a lot. I've seen people try different iterations, like coffee shops will have like a little stage in the corner, but they'll
corner
other entertainment, spoken
that's like
words.
open mics, right?
Yeah, comedy clubs certainly do this, and comedy clubs host podcasts, when they come through town, but they also do other things. Theaters aren't just dedicated to podcasters, but we know that the celebrities in this industry and podcast, they're filling up arenas, they're filling up theaters in your town. So we know that this form of entertainment is happening, especially with people who have the draw to fill an arena or theater. And when I tell people this, like, you're getting ideas as we're sitting here, you're talking about, I could maybe do this show, or I could bring this person into the town. I love seeing that happen. But not only does that happen, I'm also inspiring people to do this and to copy this. And I'll give you the blueprint, because I want to do this not just in Pittsburgh. I want to see it grow in Cleveland and Baltimore and Kentucky and Allentown, so that on a weekend, some of us local, we work a full-time job. We have fun podcasting. On the weekend, I could go to Pittsburgh Friday, Cleveland Saturday, and then over to Cincinnati on Sunday, do a little 3-stop weekend, and take my podcast to 3 cities and have a good time doing live performances. And other people are seeing this now too, as like, okay, there's this new wave of entertainment happening. We know that it's happening at a much larger scale. It kind of skipped over like the smaller DIY and went right to the mainstream. So there's going to be a tail dragging behind, where we need other acts to fill these arenas, even opening up for these arena acts. Just like you see music bands, you don't just go see the band, you see 2 or 3 opening acts. And as podcasting in these big arenas get more and more competitive, and you're not going to be able to get a $75 ticket for a 60-minute show, because somebody else is going to do a 3-hour show, for $50, right? There's going to be a supply and demand, but there is no other talent coming behind. And that's why I think spaces like what I'm building and what other people want to start to open in other towns, they're going to cultivate this pool of talent to get us out of our home studios, like we are now, into small theaters and clubs, so that when the large acts come through and they need opening acts, they're going to find them in these little clubs and pull them up with us. And this middle ground is what I'm trying to develop, really trying to build this pool, this talent pool for people who are ready to take their podcast and perform it live in front of an audience.
I got 2 completely different. I have this problem all the time. One of them is, tell me about the event. So you also have a podcast show itself called My Guest Tonight with Jeff Revilla. And I understand that you're doing work, like just regular podcasting work, and you're leading up to an actual physical event, which is in September. So tell me about the event, because I know the details, but I want you to do it. Tell me about the event that's coming in September, and just like paint me that little picture. Like, because I'm thinking people could totally attend that, I'm guessing virtually.
Yeah, it's live stream. We've done this for several years, and we kind of piggyback it on International Podcast Day. And this year and the last year, it happened to fall on Monday and a Tuesday. Now that we're older, like I said, we're working full-time jobs. I can't take a Monday and a Tuesday off to do a 12-hour live stream. So what we're doing this year is like we're going to copy the same way we did it last year. It is 6 hours a day, 12 to 6. Every 30 minutes, we bring up a new podcast. Whether you're in the theater with us or whether you're live streamed from home, we're going to flip that stage every 30 minutes. So you're going to get 12 podcasters Sunday, 12 podcasters Sunday. In between, we're going to get sponsors and have a little, a little party, a little interrentum. And we're going to have a big event just showcasing podcasting talent, showcasing people who want to get up on stage and perform live. It's a 2-day festival. It's mostly free. There are some VIP things you can do for like $20. So it's not even like just to help us cover some of the cost of it. Because we want to have
Keep the lights on. Yeah.
Yeah, keep the lights on, but we also want to have not craft services, because we don't have craft services budget, but so that we have waters for the people on stage. So we have snacks and chips and fruits and things like that. So that kind of goes into a pool to help cover some of the expenses to make sure the podcasters who are performing come in, they have a VIP experience. They're taken care of, they're fed, they're in a good mood, they're having a good time. And we just love doing it. I've been doing this since 2020. We did Indie Pods United. We've been doing International Podcast Day, and now we're doing it as Padooty Fest. Padooty Live 2025. We're calling this one. It'll be at the last Saturday and Sunday.
Padooty.com, right? P-O-D-U-T-Y.
Yeah, dates and deets at Padooty.com, P-O-D-U-T-Y.com. And you can go there to see that's the last event on the page that I have booked so far this year. So you'll see it there. It's the last Saturday and Sunday in September.
I said I had two things. That was one. Let's see if I can remember the second. The second one was, this is a little harder. People who are like, okay, here's somebody who's listening, and they're like, do you know the Homer Simpson meme where he backs into the bushes? Nope, 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 nope. So somebody's listening and they're doing the Homer Simpson nope backwards into the shrubbery. I'm never doing that. What's something that you think they should try, either with their process or with their actual show, or how they make their space, or something? Like, what's something that you would challenge them to try that might be a baby step toward actually coming to Tarentum, Pennsylvania, and actually trying it in person?
I tell a lot of people, I know, and I say you probably don't have a Padooty in your neighborhood, and that's okay. But you do have other things and other options. You have a pavilion at a park, right? And most of those are wired for electricity, so you could literally not even tell anybody. Make sure it's not, don't crash some kid's birthday party, but
that was my first thought.
Ooh,
they brought cake, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, start doing a podcast while they're cutting the cake. But you could go to a park where there are people in front of you, plug in, get some power, put a little speaker out. You don't have to broadcast to the world, but you could actually just get out of your comfort zone, do this thing that you do in your house, do it live at a park, and just see what happens. Just nobody's going to stop and watch you and hang out with you. Most likely, a couple crazy people might, but that's okay too. You'll make some new friends, but you'll get out of your comfort zone. You'll have tried it in a new place. There's bars, there's restaurants. We talked about coffee shops. There are places, a coffee shop on a Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. isn't probably making, double espresso lattes at high volume. They're probably a slower time. You could ask them, hey, would you mind? I'm not going to charge you. If you want to buy me a coffee or something in exchange, I'd like to come in and record an episode of my podcast here. Marketing over coffee used to be like that. They used to record in a coffee shop. You could do that. And the one that nobody ever thinks about, the kind of the sleeper room, is most libraries in your neighborhood have a media room or a media center, or some of them even have small theaters that are cheap to rent. Some of them are free if you're a member and you live in the community. Some of them are like $50 or $70 for, a night. And if you're allowed to sell tickets with that, sell a $5 ticket. You could probably break even with just friends and family. So there are options for you locally to start doing it and start testing the water and start trying to do your show in new environments and new places and push the limits. Even like, go to a friend's. I do a trivia show since 2015. And one of the things I wanted to do before I got into this live environment was I wanted to go to like raging kegers on college campuses and set up in their basement and like do a trivia show inside of a college part. I thought it'd be
no
crazy.
college students were harmed in the recording
Yeah.
of this episode, right?
Yeah. And so just think about it. There's so many different places to go, so many places to try this out and do it, and a lot of minimal investment to, a mixer and some speakers, with a little bit of amps in them are going to get you enough to fill a small, 20 by 10 room. You don't need a ton of equipment. You can try that. You can probably find it on where I buy a lot of stuff. We have a thing called MacBid, which is like Amazon auctions. Everybody has a different version in their town. You can probably find electrical stuff that you need to do this for like 75% off of retail. Just roll the dice on it, and so try it. Like you have the first, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and you got to get out of your comfort zone. If you have nothing near you, start it. Do something, find a place, and go have some fun. Do it. It sounded kind of aggressive.
Just do it. Don't push me off the subway platform. My horrible vision. What I was thinking was, I kind of feel like in the podcaster, people either know what I'm talking about or not. In the podcaster community, I ought to start saying to people like, all right, I'm going to, like, let's all commit, like I'm going to do this one. And then who's doing it? Like, try and get other people to like do their thing. And then people can show up virtually and cheer each other on, like a little mastermind group or a circle of friends who are all down to try something crazy. I think it's super cool. Both from, we haven't even talked about like I don't want to say you're single-handedly revitalizing a downtown, but you are putting a business in a space that was unutilized. And there's a lot to be said for, I can only imagine, I bet you I can only imagine how much effort that takes. And I think that's a huge service, which we haven't even touched on. There's also the idea of bringing people together. Like, we don't want to be coughing and sneezing on each other if things are going around, but everybody acknowledges that there was too much separation for the psychological health of everybody. There's just too much separation. So anything that anybody does that gives us a chance to come together and laugh together or throw tomatoes at Craig together, whatever it is, that's always going to be a good. Jeff's miming tomatoes at me through the video feed. Cool. Anything else top of mind? Last thoughts before we head out the door?
No, this is what I do. I love talking about this. If you're in the area and you ever just want to see a tour and see how it all works, stop by or reach out to me on Poduty.com, PODUTY.com. There's 19 different forms I created somewhere on there. It's easy to connect with me. I made it simple. You don't even have to think about it. Just fill out a form. It emails me directly. I will talk about this. I do like 2 or 3 of these a week. I do this for hours on end. I really think that this has tremendous potential. I think it's a great opportunity for podcasters. I think that we're going to see a lot more of what I'm doing in towns and neighborhoods across the country that are doing exactly this into the future. So stay tuned. It's coming to a town near you.
My brain went, my local little theater in the town that I actually live in is oddly 20 feet from a huge set of train tracks. It's a movie theater and they have a digital projector, but every once in a while it's like, the train goes by and the building shakes and you're like, I'll turn the subtitles on because we can't hear. But the front of the theater has a stage and they actually do comedy shows, and they don't do Rocky Horror. It's a little more family oriented than that, but they do comedy shows and music and stuff. And I'm like, well, it kind of sounds like I should go ask them if I could do a podcast there. They'd probably love the idea. So when you're talking about go find the opportunities, I'm like, I know there's like at least 3 coffee shops in town that have a space in the corner that would, probably have it. My library has a media room. Anyway, Jeff, it was super great to talk to you. I'm really glad that we connected. And I had half a mind. I'm like, you know what I really should do? I should schedule this further out. Get in my car. It's only 5.5 hours. Ouch. Drive across Pennsylvania. People who aren't from Pennsylvania, they don't expect it. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to drive across PA. And those of us who live in the state, we laugh at you. We're like, ha, you're in for a bad day. It's a long way across. But I was actually thinking, ooh, I should probably take Pod Talk over to Tarentum, Pennsylvania, and try some episodes there.
Well, the stage is yours. Whenever you're ready, I'll have it reserved for you.
I knew you were going to say that. All right, Jeff, thanks so much for taking the time. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.